What if the one place in your home you trust to keep your food safe, your refrigerator, is actually a silent saboteur, secretly degrading your health with every passing day? It sounds like a plot from a science fiction movie, but it's a chilling reality happening in kitchens across the country. Tucked away behind that cold, humming door are common foods that undergo dangerous transformations when refrigerated, creating harmful compounds, stripping away vital nutrients, and fostering bacterial growth in ways that most people, especially seniors, are never warned about. This isn't just a matter of a mushy tomato or a bland piece of bread. It's about insidious chemical changes that can impact your gut, weaken your heart, and even fog your brain. The scary truth is that over 99% of us are making these storage mistakes, completely unaware of the damage being done. The modern refrigerator, a symbol of 20th century progress and food security, has paradoxically created a cultural amnesia, erasing generations of food storage wisdom. We have become so reliant on this appliance that we've outsourced our critical thinking about the nature of the foods we eat. Our ancestors understood the unique needs of each fruit and vegetable, utilizing cool cellars, dark pantries, and breathable bags to preserve life, flavor, and nutrition. Today, in our haste, we treat all perishables as if they were the same, subjecting them to a one-size-fits-all cold shock that their cellular structures were never designed to withstand. Some experts are now beginning to question if our modern obsession with chilling everything might be a hidden contributor to the rise of chronic illnesses we see today, from digestive disorders to metabolic syndromes. The constant low-grade consumption of nutritionally compromised and chemically altered foods could be placing a significant burden on our bodies, a burden that becomes especially heavy for older adults whose systems may already be more vulnerable. But knowledge is power. Prepare to uncover the science-backed truths that food manufacturers and appliance companies don't tell you. We will reveal the 9 everyday foods that should never see the inside of your refrigerator, and more importantly, the simple, correct ways to store them to unlock their full flavor and health potential. Irrarn, the hidden toxin in your cold potatoes. It seems sensible, almost instinctual, to place a bag of potatoes in the crisper drawer of your refrigerator, believing the cold will extend their life and keep them firm. However, this common practice triggers a dangerous and irreversible chemical chain reaction that transforms a humble, nutritious staple into a potential health hazard. When you expose potatoes to the cold, damp environment of a refrigerator, you are inadvertently initiating a physiological stress response within the tuber. This process, known as cold-induced sweetening, causes the potato's complex starches to be broken down and converted into simpler reducing sugars, primarily glucose and fructose. This isn't just a minor alteration that affects the taste, it sets the stage for a far more sinister transformation. The real danger emerges when you take these refrigerated, sugar-laden potatoes and expose them to high cooking temperatures, such as during frying, baking, roasting, or air frying. At temperatures above 250 degrees, these newly formed sugars react with a naturally occurring amino acid called asparagine in a chemical process known as the Maillard reaction. While this reaction is responsible for the desirable browning and flavor of many cooked foods, in this specific case, it creates a harmful byproduct, a chemical called acrylamide. The International Agency for Research on Cancer, a division of the World Health Organization, has classified acrylamide as a probable human carcinogen, linking it in animal studies to an increased risk of several types of cancer. A landmark study from the University of Idaho found that potatoes stored in the cold showed a staggering 300% increase in their sugar content in just 2 weeks, drastically increasing the potential for acrylamide formation upon cooking. Beyond the grave health risks, the cold utterly ruins the potato's texture and culinary performance. The cold temperatures break down the potato's cellular structure, causing the starch granules to rupture and release water. This results in a gritty, unpleasantly sweet, and watery consistency when cooked. Instead of a light, fluffy baked potato or a crispy French fry, you are left with a dense, soggy, and strangely sweet product that often burns on the outside before the inside is cooked through. To preserve both their safety and their beloved fluffy texture, store potatoes in a cool, dark, and well-ventilated place. The ideal environment is a pantry, a cellar, or a cool cupboard with a temperature between 45 and 50 degrees Fahrenheit. A paper bag or a wicker basket is far superior to a plastic bag, as it allows air to circulate and prevents the buildup of moisture that leads to sprouting and rot. And remember the golden rule of pantry storage: keep potatoes far away from onions. Onions release ethylene gas, which accelerates the spoilage process in potatoes, causing them to sprout prematurely, while the high moisture content of potatoes can cause onions to rot. By respecting the potato's nature, you protect both your health and the simple pleasure of a perfectly cooked spud. Tier, the great bread betrayal. Your refrigerator is not your bread's sanctuary. In fact, it is a chamber of accelerated decay, a place where a fresh, flavorful loaf is systematically betrayed and turned into a disappointing, flavorless brick. While you might logically assume that the cold environment that preserves milk and meat would do the same for your bread, the opposite is alarmingly true. The science behind this phenomenon is a process called starch retrogradation. When bread is baked, the heat causes the starch molecules, primarily amylose and amylopectin, to absorb water and unravel into a soft, gelatinous structure, which gives fresh bread its wonderful, tender crumb. As the bread cools, these starch molecules slowly begin to recrystallize and realign themselves, pushing water out of their structure in the process. This is what causes bread to naturally go stale over time. However, the cold, humid environment of the refrigerator dramatically accelerates this process. Researchers at the Institute of Food Technologists made a stunning discovery. Bread stored in the refrigerator at around 40 degrees goes stale a shocking 6 times faster than bread left on the counter at room temperature. The cold temperature provides the optimal conditions for the starch molecules to rapidly form crystalline structures, forcing moisture out of the crumb and into the crust, leaving you with a product that is simultaneously hard, dry, and oddly chewy. The damage is not limited to texture. The cold is a ruthless murderer of flavor. The complex, volatile, aromatic compounds that give freshly baked bread its irresistible aroma and rich, nuanced taste are incredibly delicate. These compounds break down and dissipate rapidly in a cold environment, which is why refrigerated bread often tastes like little more than bland, chewy cardboard, a hollow echo of its former self. To truly honor your loaf and keep it fresh and flavorful for as long as possible, the best method is to store it in a dedicated bread box or a simple paper bag at room temperature. These methods are designed to protect the loaf from excess air while allowing just enough humidity to escape to prevent the growth of mold. A bread box creates a microenvironment that balances moisture perfectly. If you have purchased or baked a large loaf that you know you cannot finish within a few days, the freezer, not the refrigerator, is your best ally. For optimal results, slice the bread first, then place it in a high-quality, airtight freezer bag, squeezing out as much air as possible. When you need a piece, you can take it straight from the freezer and place it directly into the toaster. The intense, rapid heat of the toaster revives the bread almost perfectly, flash thawing the interior while crisping the surface, effectively reversing some of the starch crystallization and releasing a surprising amount of its original flavor and aroma. Honey, nature's perfect food, ruined by cold. Honey is a true miracle of nature, an alchemical creation of bees that is so biochemically stable and perfectly preserved by its own properties that archaeologists have discovered 3,000-year-old pots of it in ancient Egyptian tombs that were still perfectly edible and safe to consume. Its low water content and high acidity create an environment where bacteria and other microorganisms simply cannot survive. It is virtually immortal when left to its own devices, yet you can effectively ruin this perfect food in a matter of weeks by committing the cardinal sin of storing it in the refrigerator. The cold temperature has a devastating effect on honey's physical and chemical properties. It causes the natural sugars within the honey, primarily glucose, to crystallize at an extremely accelerated rate. This process transforms that smooth, viscous, golden liquid into a thick, grainy, and nearly solid sludge that is difficult to scoop, impossible to spread, and resistant to dissolving in your tea or drizzling over your yogurt. While some crystallization is natural over time, refrigeration forces the formation of large, coarse crystals that completely ruin the luxurious texture. More critically, the refrigerator introduces moisture, which is honey's one and only kryptonite. Honey's immortality is predicated on its extremely low water activity. Every time you take the cold jar out of the refrigerator and open it in the warmer air of your kitchen, condensation immediately forms on the surface of the honey and inside the jar. This water dilutes the honey, incrementally raising its water activity. A study conducted by the National Honey Board revealed the dire consequences of this dilution in cold storage. Honey stored at cold temperatures can lose up to 35% of its powerful enzymatic, antimicrobial, and antibacterial properties. These are the very qualities derived from enzymes like glucose oxidase, which produces hydrogen peroxide, that have made honey a medicinal powerhouse for centuries, used to treat wounds, soothe coughs, and fight infections. The complex and delicate flavor profile of honey, derived from over 180 different volatile organic compounds from the specific nectars the bees collect, also takes a major hit. The cold dulls these nuances, making a complex wildflower or orange blossom honey taste one-dimensional and simply sweet. To protect this liquid gold and preserve its full spectrum of benefits, the solution is beautifully simple. Store it in a tightly sealed, airtight jar in your pantry or a cupboard at a stable room temperature, away from the degrading effects of direct sunlight. Should your properly stored honey ever crystallize over a long period, do not despair. Simply place the sealed jar in a bowl of warm, not boiling water and gently stir until the crystals dissolve and it returns to its pristine liquid state with all its potent health benefits and exquisite flavor fully intact. The coffee connoisseur's nightmare. If you are someone who truly loves and appreciates the rich, aromatic, and deeply satisfying experience of a good cup of coffee, then storing your precious coffee beans in the refrigerator is an act of high culinary sabotage. This common mistake, often made with the good intention of preserving freshness, does the exact opposite, systematically destroying the very qualities that make specialty coffee worth drinking. Coffee beans, whether whole or ground, are highly porous and hygroscopic, meaning they act like a natural sponge, readily absorbing the moisture, odors, and flavors from their surrounding environment. Your refrigerator is a veritable festival of potent smells: the lingering aroma of leftover lasagna, the pungent funk of various cheeses, the sharp scent of half an onion, the faint smell of last week's fish. Your expensive, carefully selected coffee beans are soaking all of this in, leading to a brewed cup that can taste bizarrely and unpleasantly of everything but coffee. Even more damaging than the absorption of odors is the effect of condensation. The constant temperature fluctuations that occur every time the refrigerator door is opened and closed cause moisture to form on the surface of the beans. This moisture is devastating because it begins to dissolve and wash away the precious, soluble oils and lipids that are locked within the bean's cellular structure. These oils are the lifeblood of the coffee, carrying all of the hundreds of delicate flavor and aromatic compounds that create a coffee's unique profile, from fruity and floral notes to chocolatey and nutty undertones. A comprehensive study from the Specialty Coffee Association found that refrigerated beans can lose as much as 60% of their volatile aromatic qualities in a single week. Furthermore, the cold temperature solidifies these essential oils, turning them from a liquid to a waxy solid. When you then grind these chilled, solidified beans and attempt to brew them, the hot water is unable to properly extract these locked-in oils. The result is a tragically weak, thin, and flavorless cup of coffee, lacking body, aroma, and complexity. The proper way to store coffee and protect your investment is in an opaque, airtight container at a stable room temperature, away from heat, light, and moisture. Buy your coffee in smaller batches that you can realistically use within 1 to 2 weeks of the roast date to enjoy it at its peak of freshness. If you absolutely must store coffee for a longer period, your best bet is the freezer, but with strict rules. Divide it into weekly vacuum-sealed or airtight portions and place it in the deep freeze. Critically, you can only freeze it once. Once a batch is removed, it must not be refrozen, as the process of thawing and refreezing will create even more moisture and completely destroy the coffee's integrity. Use straw of the garlic debacle, losing power and potency. Refrigerating a whole head of garlic is a deceptively destructive act that does far more than just diminish its pungent, savory flavor. It actively strips away its most potent health benefits and tricks it into premature decay. The cold, humid environment inside a refrigerator mimics the conditions of early spring in the soil, sending a biological signal to the garlic clove that it is time to start growing. This causes the garlic to sprout, sending out those bitter, green shoots from the center of each clove. While not harmful to eat, these sprouts impart a harsh, acrid flavor that can ruin a dish and for some people cause digestive upset. But the real, invisible problem lies in the catastrophic loss of garlic's medicinal power. Groundbreaking research from the University of California, Davis, demonstrated that garlic stored in the refrigerator loses a staggering 50% of its allicin content within just 10 days. Allicin is the superstar sulfur compound that is the primary source of garlic's renowned antibacterial, antiviral, anti-inflammatory, and heart protective properties. This powerful compound isn't actually present in a whole, intact clove. It is created by an enzymatic reaction when the garlic cells are ruptured by chopping, crushing, or chewing, mixing a compound called alliin with an enzyme called alliinase. The cold temperatures of the refrigerator degrade these precursor compounds, meaning that even when you do chop your refrigerated garlic, its potential to produce health-giving allicin is severely handicapped. By chilling your garlic, you are literally throwing away half of its medicinal value, a value that is particularly crucial for supporting cardiovascular health and immune function as we age. The texture also suffers immensely under refrigeration. The humidity seeps into the cloves, turning them from firm and crisp to soft, rubbery, and difficult to chop cleanly. This spongy texture also means that when you add it to a hot pan, it tends to steam and leach water rather than sizzle and toast, diluting its flavor and preventing proper browning. To keep your garlic potent, flavorful, and firm for months on end, store it whole in a cool, dry, dark place with good air circulation. A mesh bag, a wire basket, or a terracotta garlic keeper in your pantry is the ideal home. A whole, properly stored head of garlic can last for 2 months or more. Once you break the head and separate the cloves, however, the clock starts ticking more quickly. You should aim to use the remaining cloves from that head within about 10 days to experience their best quality and maximum health potency. Start the tragic tale of the tropical banana. Bananas are quintessentially tropical fruits, evolved in the warm, humid climates of Southeast Asia, and as such, they possess absolutely no natural defense mechanism against the cold. Placing a banana in the stark, chilling environment of a refrigerator inflicts what fruit scientists appropriately call a chilling injury, a catastrophic breakdown at the cellular level. The cold temperatures cause the delicate cell membranes within both the peel and the fruit's flesh to rupture and leak. This cellular damage triggers the release of an enzyme called polyphenol oxidase, which upon exposure to oxygen causes the rapid production of melanin. This is the same pigment that colors human skin, and in the banana, it is responsible for turning the peel a dismal, unappetizing black, often within a single day. This damage, however, is far more than just skin deep. The moment a green or partially yellow banana is chilled below about 55 degrees Fahrenheit, its natural ripening process comes to a complete and permanent halt. The complex enzymatic processes that convert the fruit's starches into simple sugars, creating its sweetness, and develop its characteristic aromatic compounds, creating its flavor, are shut down. A green banana placed in the fridge will remain green, starchy, and flavorless forever. Furthermore, the cold actively destroys the nutrients within the fruit. A study published in the Journal of the Science of Food and Agriculture found that bananas stored at cold temperatures lost a shocking 80% of their vitamin C content, a vital antioxidant, within just 5 days. The process of the cells breaking down from the inside out also transforms the firm flesh into a mealy, watery, and texturally unappealing pulp. The best way to handle bananas is to embrace their natural life cycle. Allow them to ripen at room temperature, ideally hung on a banana hook to prevent bruising, which can create soft spots and accelerate spoilage. If you wish to slow down the ripening process once they have reached your desired level of yellow, you can separate the bananas from the bunch and wrap each individual stem in a small piece of plastic wrap. This contains the ethylene gas that the stems release, which is the hormone that signals the fruit to ripen. Once a banana is perfectly ripe, if you absolutely must extend its life for another day or two, you can then refrigerate it. Be prepared for the skin to turn completely black, but the inside will be mostly preserved for a short time. An even better option for overripe bananas is to peel them, slice them, and freeze them on a tray before transferring to a freezer bag. Frozen bananas are a game-changing ingredient for smoothies and nice cream, where their icy texture creates an incredibly creamy, dairy-free buzz. The onion's soggy fate. Onions, much like their frequent pantry companion garlic, are bulbs that thrive in dry, dark, and well-ventilated conditions, making the cold, humid, and enclosed environment of a refrigerator their absolute worst nightmare. The high humidity level inside a typical refrigerator, often exceeding 85%, is the primary culprit in an onion's rapid demise. This moisture quickly penetrates the onion's protective, papery outer layers and seeps into the fleshy inner layers. This saturation causes the onion to become soft, mushy, and tragically prone to premature rot. This damp, stagnant environment is also the perfect breeding ground for mold, including the unsightly and potentially harmful black mold, Aspergillus niger, which can produce mycotoxins known as aflatoxins in some conditions. Storing onions in the fridge is essentially inviting them to decompose. Beyond the immediate risk of spoilage, the cold temperature wreaks havoc on the onion's fundamental chemistry, fundamentally altering its flavor and how it behaves during cooking. Similar to potatoes, the cold triggers a reaction that converts the onion's complex carbohydrate starches into simple sugars at an accelerated rate. This not only makes the onion unpleasantly sweet and less pungent, but it also completely changes its culinary properties. A key reason chefs and home cooks love onions is for their ability to caramelize. When slowly cooked over medium heat, an onion's natural sugars undergo the Maillard reaction and caramelization, transforming into hundreds of new flavor compounds that create a deep, rich, nutty, and complex sweetness that forms the flavor base of countless soups, stews, and sauces. A refrigerated, sugar and waterlogged onion will refuse to caramelize properly. Instead of browning and deepening in flavor, it will release its excess moisture into the pan, effectively steaming itself into a soft, pale, and insipid mess. To ensure your onions remain firm, flavorful, and ready to perform their culinary magic, store them whole and uncut in a cool, dark, and dry place like a cellar, pantry, or a cool garage. Using a mesh bag or a wire basket is ideal, as it ensures air can circulate freely around them, keeping them dry and preventing rot. And as mentioned before, it is crucial to always keep them separated from your potatoes. The moisture released by onions can cause potatoes to sprout, while the ethylene gas released by potatoes can cause onions to soften and spoil. The only time an onion belongs in the refrigerator is after it has been peeled and cut. Once its protective layers are breached, it becomes susceptible to bacteria and should be stored in a sealed, airtight container in the refrigerator and used within 5 to 7 days to maintain its quality and prevent its potent aroma from permeating everything else in the fridge. The genetic shutdown of the tomato. Here is perhaps the most shocking and insidious food crime of all, committed daily in millions of households. When you refrigerate a fresh tomato, you are not just making it a bit bland or mushy, you are fundamentally and irreversibly altering its genetic code, silencing the very essence of what makes a tomato taste like a tomato. Groundbreaking research from the University of Florida's Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences revealed a startling truth at the molecular level. They discovered that when a tomato is exposed to cold temperatures below 54 degrees, it triggers a chilling injury that literally turns off the specific genes within the tomato that are responsible for synthesizing the volatile organic compounds that create its complex flavor and aroma. Once these hundreds of crucial flavor-producing genes are deactivated by the cold, they never fully recover or turn back on, even if the tomato is brought back to room temperature for several days. It becomes, in essence, a tasteless red water balloon, a ghost of the vibrant, tangy, sweet fruit it was meant to be. The devastation extends deeply into its nutritional value as well. Tomatoes are celebrated in the health community for their high levels of lycopene, a powerful carotenoid antioxidant that is crucial for protecting our cells from oxidative damage and has been linked to a reduced risk of certain cancers and improved heart health. Cold storage deals a double blow to this vital nutrient. Studies have shown that refrigeration can slash the bioavailability of lycopene by up to 65%, meaning your body can only access a fraction of it. Worse yet, the cold destroys the very enzymes within the tomato that your body needs to properly absorb the lycopene that remains, rendering this incredible nutrient almost entirely useless. On a microscopic level, the cold temperature causes sharp ice crystals to form within the tomato's delicate cell walls. These crystals puncture and shred the internal structure of the fruit's flesh, completely destroying its texture and resulting in that mealy, grainy, and watery consistency that we all despise in a refrigerated tomato. For the most vibrant, flavorful, and nutritionally potent tomatoes, you must always store them on the counter at room temperature. A bowl on your kitchen counter out of direct, intense sunlight is the perfect home for a tomato. For optimal preservation, store them stem side down, which helps to prevent moisture from escaping through the scar where it was attached to the vine. This simple act of keeping them out of the cold preserves their genetic integrity, their rich taste, and their life-supporting health benefits. Bureau. The utter destruction of the avocado. The avocado, a modern superfood and a nutritional powerhouse, suffers a particularly devastating and multifaceted fate when subjected to the cold environment of the refrigerator, especially before it is fully ripe. Avocados are prized for their abundance of healthy monounsaturated fats, particularly oleic acid, which are essential for cardiovascular health, reducing inflammation, and, critically, for supporting brain health and cognitive function, an area of increasing concern as we age. Placing an avocado in the refrigerator, however, initiates a destructive process called lipid peroxidation. The cold, combined with the presence of oxygen, causes these delicate, healthy fats to oxidize and break down, turning them into harmful free radicals. These unstable molecules can cause cellular damage throughout the body, completely negating the very health benefits for which you are eating the avocado in the first place. Researchers at Stanford University conducted a study which found that a refrigerated avocado loses an astonishing 90% of its antioxidant activity in just 4 days of cold storage. This means the vital, age-fighting compounds like vitamins E and C, which work to protect the delicate fats and your body's cells from damage, are all but obliterated by the cold. But the destruction does not stop at the nutritional level. The cold also activates an enzyme within the avocado, polyphenol oxidase, that aggressively breaks down the fruit cell walls from the inside out. This is the same enzyme that causes browning when the flesh is exposed to air, but under refrigeration, it works internally, turning the famously creamy, smooth, and buttery flesh into a stringy, watery, fibrous, and often bitter disappointment. Furthermore, much like a banana, an avocado's ripening process is completely halted by the cold. An unripe, hard avocado placed in the fridge will never soften and will never develop its rich, nutty flavor. To properly care for an avocado and reap its full rewards, you must allow it to ripen on your countertop. If you want to speed up this process, place the avocado in a paper bag, which traps the natural ethylene gas it produces. For an even faster result, add a banana or an apple to the bag as they release even more ethylene gas, accelerating the ripening significantly. Once your avocado yields to gentle pressure and is perfectly ripe, you should use it promptly. If you must store a cut half, the best method is to leave the pit in the unused half. Brush the exposed flesh with lemon or lime juice to provide an antioxidant barrier, and store it in an airtight airtight container in the refrigerator with a slice of cut onion. The sulfur compounds released by the onion are surprisingly potent antioxidants that miraculously prevent the browning process for a day or two. By treating your avocados with this simple, science-backed care, you preserve not only their luxurious, creamy texture and rich flavor, but also the incredible brain-boosting and heart-protecting nutrients that make them one of nature's most perfect and valuable foods.